Be sure to subscribe for your chance to win a custom leather playmat when we hit 2,500 subscribers. Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games. We've got Nick on Sharkstill versus David on Elves. We have a Queer and Ranger off of Bayou. Nick with a couple of fetch lands here. This elf deck got a major shot in the arm with Allosaurus Shepherd. We'll see if David has access to that card. Currently at over $100. Everybody kind of holding their breath on Jumpstart a little bit. Elvish Reclaimer coming down. 2, 3. Like only 5 boxes of it left in the store. Right now it's been selling at like $10 a pack. I mean, it's gonna be, I'm guessing, like $6 a pack when it finally gets enough of a reprint. But, I mean, if I was Wizards, I probably wouldn't reprint it very heavily. I'd probably just let this one be one that ends up being worth a ton. And that would probably leave everybody in a FOMO frenzy moving forward. Every time there's a new set, people would just be worried it was going to be the new Jumpstart. And, yeah, we'll see if they're that diabolical. I don't know. They've had a tough time getting it to market, but we've got a Swords to Plowshares taking out in response to this Heritage Druid and getting in there for one. Brainstorm helping Nick sculpt his hand. Now he is behind on board. So it'll be a question of whether or not he actually would even be interested in playing a Standstill. Facing this down. Now remember, Dryad Arbor can also come down. But Elves also not going to be happy kind of letting things progress, just attacking for 2 a turn. I mean, it doesn't really have any elements of control. So if things drag out, Nick would certainly be happy taking 4 turns off and just going down to 8 life and then going from there. Especially if he has access to a Mishra's Factory or something. Oh, an Allosaurus Shepherd. There it is. What I was talking about. Now, not only is that uncounterable, it gives him access to a ton more mana. We've got the first green for a Wirewood Symbiote. And it looks like Nick taking that opportunity to exile the Allosaurus Shepherd. Though the Wired Symbiote is so dangerous as well. I mean, that effectively blanks removal, allowing David to return anything that's targeted. That is very often the target of Swords to Plowshares. A Dryad Arbor being played for turn. And at least now something to go alongside the Queer and Ranger. Be able to untap that by returning the Bayou is going to give a nice little acceleration to Fury. Coming in. We'll see if he... I mean, I guess he's not going to live very long. I mean, he can bounce something, but it bounces the Dryad Arbor, and he's just near death at this point. So it draws a card. That is far from ideal. David's got to feel pretty good about this. Teferi can be a powerful, dangerous card to play against, but in this instance, he's essentially just drawing Nick a card and setting David back just slightly. Could be so much worse. A Birchlore Ranger. One of my favorite cards in the deck in that it gives lines that are unexpected. I've played this against pretty competent tournament players where I've put down a Birchlore Ranger as a morph and had them have no idea what the morph is. Like, actually, like, go into the tank and just be like, what kind of crazy tech does he have? I mean, part of that is the body language of how you play your cards. But for sure, it's just not obvious to everybody that it has morph because it's so rarely used. Now we have a natural order sacrificing the Birchlore Ranger. Nick is using a Brainstorm in response, it looks like. Oh no, he's got Force of Will, sorry. He actually has the Force to stop the natural order. And Teferi's getting taken out. Force of Will keeping Nick alive. Nick is building a mana base, though. If he's able to prevent a total disaster in the form of a natural order or something along the lines of a Green Sun Zenith or Hardcast Craterhoof, I mean, he'll probably be okay. Another Heritage Druid. Down to 11. Even though he's facing down 4 points of damage at a time, there's a lot of things that his deck could bail him out with. Let's see if he can, cycle a Sharknado. David thinking about what he wants to be doing here. And he's just going to go beats. We've got a Snapcaster Mage for swords, in all likelihood. And the play here is going to be to block the Wirewood Symbiote, and then after damage, go ahead and swords one of the other elves. You can't really fire it off ahead of time, otherwise the Wirewood Symbiote's return ability is going to enter into the equation. Oh, did he go with the Brainstorm? That might be a little greedy. That might be a little greedy. Let's see here. It is possible that Nick was just kind of thinking about it in terms of the Swords to Plowshares not being good because the Wirewood Symbiote was on board, but that flashback is until end of turn. You don't have to play it immediately. A little bit of a pause there. I'm not sure what the technical difficulties were. We've got a Ponder for Nick. And a Myth Realized. Pretty low on life. A natural order would be lethal here. And he does have the ability to cast it. Just going to send for 3. Oh no, getting 3 green for a Glimpse of Nature. Don't know how I feel about that. I think tapping a forest is probably preferable to tapping all 3 creatures here. Glimpse is denied. And now an Elvish Visionary with 2 green floating. Oh no, wow. Okay, so sorry, there was a Spell Pierce, which did not counter it. I did not notice that was a Spell Pierce. So yes, of course David's going to pay the 2. And now he's got an Elvish Visionary that draws 2. Quirion Ranger has not been used. We've got a Dryad Arbor, which I don't... Okay. We'll see. Maybe David didn't have any more 1-drops in hand but he has assembled enough to potentially go wide around this Myth Realize, which is just a 2/2 here. Gaia's Cradle. That's going to be 5 mana. 6, 7, 8. Hoof. We've got a Hardcast Force. And it looks like David considering whether or not to attack with everything. I mean, I think you can return a forest to untap the Dryad Arbor and send everybody in there. Just going to send for 4. One of them's going to die. Not loving that. Now he's got to get through 4 damage. But there's a blocker, so he's not going to get it this turn. A Snapcaster plus Swords here would just be so disastrous. Another Heritage Druid and a Karakas. And tons more mana. Does he have another Craterhoof? We got another Hardcast Force. And sending 3 guys, one of them blocked, down to 2. We got 4 attackers, so he does need something. Just animating and blocking will leave him dead. He's going to need something additional here. Maybe he's going to have to cycle a Sharknado into something. We've got a the Shark cycled. Lethal on board represented. Putting David to the test. I mean, he's got a swing. Does Nick have a Snapcaster, a Swords, any type of responses here? Animating. And he does have a Swords. A Nettle Sentinel comes down post-combat. He's at 2. The Myth Realize big enough to block. Oh, sorry, at 1. Yeah, not untapping that Dryad Arbor may have ended up being just a super important part of this. I believe he had a Quirion Ranger at the time and could have untapped it. Now facing down both creatures, and we've got a Snapcaster plus Swords. And it looks like Nick is, as we used to call it back in the day, stabilizing. Able to block with the Myth Realized, having a Swords to Plowshares. Doesn't even need to eliminate his Snapcaster Mage. And now the shoe is on the other foot as Nick's going to be able to start turning his Myth Realized sideways. Oh, a Morph creature was played. The Birchlore Ranger. That gets Swords to Plowshares. And now quickly mopping this situation up. Nick hanging in there, grinding it out. And David scooping it up after being so close to victory there. That is, I mean, I am watching this at double speed, so there's going to be times where I will not accurately understand the game state, but it really looked to me like there were a couple of points in there where slightly different decisions would have yielded that extra point of damage. And, you know, as you get against stronger and stronger opposition through time, playing in tournaments as compared to the kitchen table, you will find that those are the differences between winning and losing. It's not as kind of clear cut as so many games can be when you're first starting, where it's like, oh, that was unwinnable, just kind of blow out games here and there. A lot of the time, games of Legacy end up coming down to just a few really key decisions, just sequencing, what mana you're fetching out, and kind of whoever makes the most good little decisions, a lot of the time it ends up being the difference. And I think Legacy tends to be cumulative too. I think Vintage, in the past especially, was very much about kind of a single minor decision that you could make. A lot of the time you could play an entire match and take a look, and it would be like one game, pretty much one player was going to win no matter what. The other game, the other player was going to win no matter what. And then that middle game, it was due to some type of inaccuracy where either player could have won, but whoever played the best ended up winning. And that's kind of the way that I thought about Vintage a lot way back in the day was, there's just going to be some games that you just can't win. And there's going to be some games where your opponent couldn't have done anything. But the only place where you really need to focus are the games where those little decisions end up being the difference. And there, I definitely think that was the case. A game that was potentially winnable doesn't get much closer, being down to one life. And there was at least that one instance of not untapping the Dryad Arbor to get the extra point of damage in. Recurring Nightmare map for David. Classic art. We've got a Birchlore Ranger. Now, Elves, in the past, really wanted to mulligan any hand that didn't have a turn 1 Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor, or a Lanor or Finhorn, or back in the day, a Deathrite Shaman. Those were some spicy days for Elves, but some type of acceleration going into the next turn with more than just a kind of trickle. You want a full-blown deluge of mana. Birchlore Ranger not looking to tap. We've got a Dryad Arbor. Oof. And this is a slow start for David. Swords to Plowshares actually taking out the Arbor. One of the stronger cards in the deck, in that you can use it with the Quirin Ranger very effectively. Also Wirewood Symbiote. Just any type of untapping. It's funny, the Symbiote more often feels like just a way to return Elves to get extra ETBs or to protect them from removal, but the untapping is super relevant. Pendlehaven. That's one we don't see very much. Certainly fits the bill as a bunch of 1/1s in the deck. I'm not sure how much value turning them into 2/3s has at the moment. But I can see how that could be a problem as a reply against things like, say, Liliana the Last Hope. Now we've got a Monastery Swiftspear being played in a response of a Surgical Extraction. Getting the Swords to Plowshares. Likely a full play set of that card. The original Ice Ages art there from Nick. I am a fan. I think that's actually my favorite Ice Age, my favorite Swords to Plowshares art. I mean, the Jeff Menges Alpha art, of course, very iconic. But that might be the first time that they reprinted art with an entirely new art on it. Reprinted a card with new commission, where I actually liked the second version more, or at least, on par. Oh, and Leovold, that's a spicy Magic card. That is going to diminish the value of Standstill for sure. But this Swiftspear, this Mentor, is still pretty big. Teferi comes down and is likely going to bounce the Leovold, but that does allow David to draw a card. The Wasteland from Nick taken out. Leovold's return strategy, but a Windswept Heath coming down to replace the Bayou with another. So we do have the black, blue, green available as Birchlore Ranger. Is a heck of a Magic card. Part of the combo, also giving you these splash colors. And Leovold comes back down. And he is even scarier when there's no Swords to Plowshares left in the deck. I mean, this guy is pretty beefy. Teferi starting to tick up. He's going to be looking to get back to 3 to get the Leovold out of the way. From there, a Standstill could come back down and really push Nick farther ahead. David cannot afford to play kind of this tit-for-tat back and forth situation. And whoa, offering up this Leovold. I mean, I don't know the best way to proceed from here, but this is super dangerous. I'm not sure what this card is. It's instant speed. The tokens are going to trade with Leovold. One of them is going to get +1/+1. One of them is going to arrive. And yeah, I'm not actually sure what that spell was. Let me know in the comments. Was that the Shark Typhoon being cycled to just get... Oh yeah, no, that was just Shark Typhoon being cycled for a 2/2. Couldn't make that out. So a 2/2 plus the 1/1. Mentor still on board. Wirewood Symbiote showing up for David. Green Sun Zenith X equals 1. I'm guessing we're going to see a Allosaurus Shepherd. Oh, but we've got a Containment Priest. David will pass on finding anything there. Containment Priest, a fine response. And we'll see if one of my favorite interactions comes up here. Containment Priest is absolutely devastating versus Dryad Arbor. If you play your land for turn, or just anytime you get a Dryad Arbor into the battlefield, it's not being cast, so it is getting exiled by Containment Priest. It is a pretty brutal interaction, and not really what the card was going for. I don't believe that was the kind of intended effect, but I mean, it definitely stops Dryad Arbor. All right, so we've got a attempt to start grinding things out. Elvish Visionary can be returned and replayed. And we've got a Snapcaster, Spell Pierce, and David scooping it up. So that Elvish Visionary in better times would have been able to potentially pull him back into that game, but seeing all of those monks on the other side, that was not going to last very long as Nick grinds that one out, barely holding on to win game 1. Game 2, a little bit more dominant there as everything kind of went his way. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.